Hey everybody, this is Random Vaughn, and you're watching The Industry Show presented by Danks Wonder Emporium. And today I have the absolute pleasure of having back on the show again, Robin from Wolf Marijuana. Robin, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Robin, you and me, if for those viewers who didn't get to watch us live on YouTube, Periscope, Instagram, and Facebook, the last time, obviously, me and Robin got into a very interesting debate, had a lot of topics, and so we literally said, Robin, we have to have you on again. There's so much more to talk about, and so Robin's been kind enough to come on again, and we're going to get into a lot of interesting topics. But for Robin, for those people who don't know who you are, who don't know who Wolf Marijuana is, can you give us a short synopsis of who you are for those viewers?
Sure. I'm one of two partners of Wolf Marijuana. I would describe ourselves as a supernatural growing facility, Tier 3. We're in the Deer Park area.
Nice. And for those of us that went to public school in America, where is the Deer Park area? Give us a more general, what part of the state of Washington are you in?
We're right next door to Spokane.
Okay, great. So east side of the mountains. Thanks for driving all the way over to come to the show today. So Robin, the first thing that just kind of I want to throw out there is, what was the most important thing that you felt we didn't cover in the last show? What is it that we really need the viewers, consumers, the general public? What is it the most important thing that you feel they need to know about the recreational industry, marijuana in general? Talk to me.
Wow. I'm so glad you asked.
There you go. That's what I do.
Okay. Well, we talked about the fraudulent nature of the 502 industry.
And the test results, yeah.
Test is one
part of it.
One part of it. The fraudulent industry, I don't feel I could really expose in the time, even though you were very generous, and I'm a little long-winded, as everybody could see. Basically, the fraudulent nature of the 502 industry is costing consumers millions and millions of dollars. It's downgrading their potential in so many ways. It may be profitable still for the stores, but the industry could really blossom if they chose a more holistic
approach.
Venue.
So, and when you say fraudulent, I know we spoke a lot about that. Is that what you feel we didn't cover enough last time? Or is there more important things to be talking about on this episode? Or should we be diving deeper into the fraudulent side of the industry?
They're all kind of intertwined.
Okay.
So we could dive like a swan dive into organic growing. It'd be a tremendous show. Yeah. Because there's a whole world of new organic growing.
Well, a lot of people, and I'm not trying to cut you off there, but I don't know. I know you didn't go to the recent industry event that was held in Seattle, put on by the Kush Guide or Kush Tourism. I always forget the company's name. And I really want to dive into I use the term organic, which obviously we can't use in the industry, but for the layman, the people that don't have recreational marijuana, what they know is organic. They go to a store, they want a certified organic product. And so I'm just going to put some context to what we are saying here is when we talk about like certified green or certified supernatural or those kind of things, it is all our industry's way of doing organic or saying the term organic because you can't get a federal stamp of organic currently. Is that correct?
Absolutely. The only thing I would add is that I definitely am not big on our, quote, organic certification. It has proven itself historically to be highly bogus. We can break that down. People with money, once again, move to the head of the line. And to a large extent, fundamental farming techniques remain the same. And I can walk down very specifically on how that's happening, which chemicals have gotten certification later to be thrown out.
Oh, okay.
It's a long laundry list.
Okay, well, yeah, I mean, I think that was, and when we were talking off air, that was the information that we felt the general consumer didn't have. So if I can, we're going to walk through this a little bit, try and take our viewers all the way through. Guys, if you're watching live on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, or Periscope, how's it going, guys? Please post up your comments. I'm going to get to as many of them as I humanly possibly can. I'm checking them right here, and they get fed to me also by our great staff here. So as many questions as you guys can post in, I'm going to feed them over here to Robin from Wolf Marijuana, and we're going to tackle them. But first off, let's just give me an understanding of the new actual certifications in our industry that are, you know, not organic, but as close to it as that. There are a couple companies coming out. They're paying for a third party actually to come in and verify that they are pesticide-free or growing green or whatever that is. Do you know what that exact term that they are now trying to brand?
There's one clean green.
Clean green, there you
Yeah.
go. Yeah.
I looked into that one. I spent an hour with one of the principals.
Okay.
I don't want to be real specific when I'm here live on any individual company. I don't think it's in my interest. Basically, these certification programs are hugely profitable programs for the certification people.
Yeah.
It definitely does add-on sales for those that can pay for it.
Okay.
Fundamentally, the hoops that I've seen in certified green fundamentally means you can still grow old chemical school cannabis. I am not big on the certified green. We need a certification program that runs on the high side in the $200 range. Then everybody can participate. But when you get into the thousands and thousands of dollars for certification that does not really take us to the promised land when it comes to growing marijuana.
Okay, so, I mean, that's what we have to dive deep into with the limited time we have here today. So, you know, being that we're on the retail side, this is obviously a side that we don't touch, and so I love being able to ask questions from a layman's terms. Also, the general public, most of them never get to come to farms or see the farms, so there's kind of a mythical belief in what a farm looks like, and it's just what you see of the pictures maybe you see online or in a news broadcast. So in any certification company going through, kind of tell me about these. I mean, are they coming monthly, quarterly, or do they just come once a year? What is it to get that stamp? Gonna give us a full understanding of what it takes to actually get that, so that then maybe we can have a more understanding of the fees involved.
You know, I don't have the current details on what Clean Green is doing.
Okay, yeah.
Typically, they're an annual program.
Okay.
They do send people over. They have a wish list, and it's definitely moving the pendulum in a small way in a positive direction.
Well,
so I don't want to be too fanatical, but the vast majority of what I would describe as supernatural growing you wouldn't be able to measure that in those programs.
Okay. So help us break that down. You on your products put supernatural on all the labels, correct?
I'm not sure.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, but okay, let me ask you a different question. For supernatural, what does that mean to you? And when a customer sees it on your packaging, what should they take that to represent?
Okay, so you start with the soil. Soil that is bought in bags is exactly that. It's bagged soil.
Okay.
Typically very dead. We make our own soil. Takes 2 years to do. We use permaculture, which involves sheet mulching. We put upwards of 25 inches. We're talking huge amounts of, quote, organic materials, not certified organic necessarily.
Yeah.
Okay, just so we understand the difference in terminology.
Yeah.
We start with manure. We put cardboard. We put 5 inches of manure, cardboard, 5 inches of manure. We put 16 inches of hay. Most of this stuff we source, so it's what I call supernatural or leaning in that direction.
What's the cardboard for? Just since not a grower, most of our viewers aren't growers, so What kind of explain what's the reason for the cardboard?
Okay, well, I get the cardboard from furniture stores, so they're these huge cardboard boxes that,
Gotcha.
so we can literally do an acre.
Okay.
Takes 2 years. We lay it on top of the manure. Does two things fundamentally. One, it keeps any seeds that are below get killed.
Okay.
The seeds that are on the top are closest to the sun. They typically either get heat killed or through the cold ice killed.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Interesting.
I lost my train of thought.
No, I was just asking about the cardboard because it
yeah.
was,
Worm.
not being a grower, it's like, well, what's this cardboard for?
Worms.
Got it. Okay.
It adds so many worms, so you can literally, when you take a shovelful at the end of 18 months, it's about an 18-month process here. In California, it's closer to a year. The metabolism is slower here. After 18 months, you take one shovelful. We're typically talking 50, 40 worms per shovelful.
Oh, okay.
So this is what we're trying to do, is we're copying nature, okay? So sheet mulching is very different than taking a couple shovelfuls of some chemical, putting it on the side of the plant.
Yeah.
We're doing layers of material and just laying them there. All the bacterial content, and it's all about the bacterial content, okay, is undisturbed. Okay.
So, I mean, obviously, I'm going to try and back us up here a little bit just for viewers who haven't seen your packaging, don't know a lot about your company. You guys are obviously doing all this work to get amazing soil for which you grow the plants in, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And just because you mentioned that you're a tier 3, obviously have the maximum canopy size allowed in the Washington state. Are you taking that soil and then putting it into a greenhouse, or are you 100% outdoor with this supernatural soil that you put all this energy into?
Well, we invite people up to come to our farm.
Fantastic.
In fact, that's an invitation. If anybody wants to Google Wolf Marijuana and try to come up to the farm in the summer, we can do that.
The weather is getting better now since we are live. It's obviously June 1st is tomorrow, so this is the time to take tours if people are available.
Small compost piles
Okay.
are better than giant compost piles. We farm on the premise that small is beautiful. Okay. So everything we do goes down to a micro level. So when we layer this material down, it's not a giant mound of material where there's massive amounts of heat escaping. It's completely imbalanced. We do it the way nature does it. We lay it down, leaves falling, stems falling, insects falling, deer shitting. We're talking massive changes every year in the forest.
Okay.
All lays there. Why is it important not to go through with a tractor and just turn the soil every year?
Yeah, why is it?
Come in with bag soil. It's all about the bacteria.
Okay.
In fact, most of what we're doing has to do with the little guys.
Okay.
Okay, so it's the very premise of how we treat diseases, how we feed. If I had a feed using conventional techniques,
And you're saying a feed. What are you referencing when you say feed?
fertilizers.
Okay, fertilizers. Okay, so if you were feeding your plants with I'm not going to use the word traditional, but more standard practices now in the modern age, you are saying that is what?
That is highly expensive, highly toxic to the environment. I mean, it's a no-brainer, costs a lot more energy. I mean, do people care? They should. Marijuana farming is taking up 11% of energy in California. We are one of the dirtiest industries now in the world.
Interesting.
Huge, copious amounts of fertilizers, primarily nitrogen and phosphorus, going into the rivers. We do that dance totally different. Much friendlier for fish, much friendlier for the consumer who's smoking it. And furthermore, we take the bacteria, we use the bacteria. I can explain to you how we do it. Okay, we use IMOs. We take this bacteria, we tag the nutrients and the bacteria together, and off to the races they go.
Okay.
So these hundreds and hundreds of thousands of bacteria are all carrying knapsacks filled with phosphorus. We don't need all that chemical stuff that is imploding in the industry, and huge amounts.
And so why is, I mean, the thing that I always try and do on these shows is also understand why things are going a certain way. Why is the stream flowing a different direction from what you are doing? Is it they get better yields? Is it big nutrient companies that are manufacturing a particular product? Why doesn't everybody do it the way you're doing it?
Because we're sinners. No. It's
Okay.
you can't separate what we do, in my view, from who we are. Okay.
Okay.
We can't separate the talk from the reality. We are. How we grow is a mirror reflection to who we are as people. We are consumptive. We are driven by finances. We are driven by profit. We are driven by a lot of things, but not always goodness. Goodness, I mean, it's really hard to measure how many animals are hurt in the marijuana industry.
Oh,
But
I would agree with that.
But I can tell you it's in the hundreds of millions, okay? Now, you say, how do you come up with those numbers? Well, here's how you come up with these numbers. Right now, 18% of global warming is coming from the animal industry.
Okay, and when you say the animal industry, you're talking about like large cattle farms, chicken farms, you know, the
All of them.
Okay, all of them. So if you take them all together, they are producing 18% of global warming.
Yeah, those are the newest numbers.
Okay, gotcha.
They used to be higher, where we've downgraded them to about 18%.
Okay, gotcha.
So,
And what? And I mean, I guess, like break that down even for even myself and the viewers. Like a cow eating grass doesn't produce global warming. You are saying
Yes,
the
it does.
fuel. Yes, it does. Well, then, like you and me, we create global. We have a footprint.
Yes.
We consume all these kind of things. So you are saying just because there is so many now livestock out there, was there more livestock out there today than there was 50 years ago? Is that kind of the understanding?
yes, because third world nations all over the world are copying America and the West.
Okay.
We are moving hugely fast into a meat-eating world.
Yep, I would agree with that.
So the numbers are staggering. So let's come back to the cannabis, the very specifics of what we were talking about. So if you just simply took away cannabis, meat would go up 20%, okay? 20% means that meat goes down in consumption, and immediately global warming goes down.
Wait, well, okay, yeah, I'm gonna have
Please.
because I don't know if I'm following you, but I'm sure trying. So you have such great data, and so that's what we always want to dive into. You are saying that if cannabis was somehow not on the planet,
Yeah.
okay, so not growing organically in India, not growing here, whatever, because it pulls out so much CO2. If it just wasn't given to us by
Doesn't pull out CO2.
Oh, I apologize. Carbon dioxide. It releases oxygen, pulls out carbon dioxide out of the air. Or am I completely not understanding how
You're
plants?
not understanding.
Cool. Okay, so fill me in.
Okay, so animals are producing methane,
Yep.
which is their global warming, and that's coming through farting and
gas.
pooping.
Yep.
Okay, so if you took away the cannabis industry, okay, when you drive down Highway 5 in California, these food lots, these animal lots
Yeah.
are like 50 miles in size.
Yeah.
I mean, they are staggering. You can smell them from miles and miles away.
Yep.
Okay. In order for those meat lots to function economically and profitably, they have to have the marijuana industry. Here's why. All that blood, when they kill those,
Yeah.
forms giant lakes. Guess where those lakes go? We are chortling that blood meal indirectly.
Because it's going into the dirt.
Yeah,
Interesting.
That's what we fertilize. It's almost all of our fertilizers come from animal.
Yeah, I would agree with that. No, I totally agree with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So nitrogen comes from blood meal.
Okay.
Phosphorus comes from bone meal. You take away, you put all those bones back into the meat industry and tell them now you have to deal with all this poisonous material, which is poisonous, and find a way to get rid of it. Guess what? Meat goes up 20% overnight.
Okay.
And that would be great for the world. It may not be good.
Might not be good for McDonald's or my eating habits. I would completely agree with that. But I would definitely agree with that the price, if they had to dispose of their products, would go up. So are you saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it doesn't sound like you're saying that that's a positive thing that we are smoking that and that weed is taking on that issue, but you are saying we shouldn't actually be smoking weed with those fertilants.
Let's start with how the animals live.
Okay.
They live in 8 to 10 foot squares, and they're about 10 foot long.
Yeah.
I mean, these are extraordinary. These are criminal food lots.
Yeah.
Okay. I own wolf hybrids. They're everything to me. I just can't imagine how much suffering is in the animal industry. Should we be smoking and contributing to suffering?
So, I mean, I'll just
shouldn't we put that in the mix somewhere?
So, are you saying?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to break this down because it's hard for me to get to the point where I buy a bag of fertilizer from X company. Obviously, I'm not tracking exactly where that's coming from. And to assume by me buying that bag that I am participating towards the cruelty of the animals in the industrial complex that is the, fast food mass, we have to feed everybody, right? So I will agree that when I eat that hamburger, which I definitely do, that is more of a direct connection. But it's hard to say that, let's just use a different company. Let's say, Dama, they are a tier 3. They grow indoors, so you could say that's good or bad. But they're obviously not doing the compost soil that you are doing. They are getting it through the standard go get it on pallets at grow stores, and they bring it in. They do use like a cocoa or whatever, but they have to add every piece of nutrient that plant gets, they have to add to it.
Right.
And you are saying those nutrients are going towards the money, and the profit in that goes towards the way animals are now treated in our society. Is that correct?
It is, because it's so important to the animal industry that if you took the cannabis component out, the animal industry would literally collapse now. So they walk together like water and ice.
But so, you also have, you got to realize, cannabis is a very growing industry. As you probably know, I'm a huge proponent, a huge champion for our industry. I believe we are on the absolute right side of history. Cannabis is going to become legalized around the world, and definitely, I believe, in my lifetime. And so with that, but you still have to say, you have all the growing of corn in this country. That is, they use a lot of fertilizers. Cannabis still is not the dominant player when it comes to fertilizing a growing crop, or am I completely wrong because of we do so much more indoor compared to other things we grow, tomatoes, vegetables, whatever that might be?
Well, it's not in every state, but mathematically, just going back to the power.
Yeah, going back to the power.
It's a huge ecological footprint.
Okay, gotcha. Well, so what is your solution to the issues that our industry is creating or contributing to? How do you see that us as an industry need to go, not only for helping the consumer, the medical patient, getting them the cannabis, and how should we be doing that more self-conscious?
Well, first of all, you're doing it right now, and I am.
We're burning this power. We're turning on these lights, these cameras.
It's worth it.
Okay.
In my view, it's worth it. Not if it was from somebody else, not from me, I would feel the same way. I'm just a messenger. I'm not particularly original either.
Okay.
About anything, and so you can You could look at it really differently. Growing supernaturally, which I prefer to use that word because it's not
Over organic. Yeah.
Yeah, I do. It doesn't have the phony implications that organic continues to have. Basically, you can take an acre farm. Let me give you an example.
Mm-hmm.
Marijuana in Washington has the worst pest problem imaginable.
We spoke about this a little on the last
Yeah.
show. I do want to get into that a little bit more. But once again, Alaska's coming online. I know Washington has its problems, but you really believe in 24 months that Alaska won't have a worse insect problem than us.
I don't know that.
Okay.
So I don't want to
Assume.
No.
But Canada also. Canada has giant grow. They make every grow in Washington look like, oh, it's your little house garden. Aurora Farms or whatever, they just go by Aurora. Their second facility, not their first facility. Their second facility is 800,000 square feet. And that does put kind of a picture on when we're talking 30,000 square feet. I'm not good at math, but that takes a lot of your farms to add up to that farm. And so that's the only thing. And you all know, it's much colder up there in a lot of the areas where they're growing. Edmonton, Calgary, Toronto, those are going to be, large beds. They're not doing it right down near the border. But talk to me more about Washington, because we're here in Washington, and the insect problems that we have, I believe other areas are going to have. So people watching in Canada, people watching in colder climates, Alaska, what issues are they going to face long term?
Well, number one up here, it's mites. There's two forms of mites. They're on probably 15 other crops that aren't cannabis, from flowers to tomatoes and other for sale crops. They're almost impossible to kill with traditional pesticides because they adapt so quickly.
Okay. The predatory mites, that is what I have had a lot of people saying on. They say they work for them, but you are saying that they barely work. In all reality, it's not curing the problem because these guys are just so vicious.
And maybe in some very dedicated, isolated situation, you might be able to mitigate with other predator insects, including other predator mites.
Mm-hmm.
No, the whole idea, well, it's not the whole idea. We talked about the values of growing supernaturally.
Gotcha.
Okay? The smaller ecological footprint, not hurting animals.
Gotcha.
But a key reason has to do with money. So the pesticides now being sold for these mites are running, are you ready? $300 a gallon and up.
So I'm going to back you up because you got to give some context, because we don't know what they were charging before. So $300 doesn't sound that bad. But if they were costing $10 before, then that sounds crazy. But a gallon of anything, that sounds like you'd get a lot of mite or a lot of a lot of the bugs in a gallon. How many are we talking? Tens of thousands of these little critters to go out and do all the work, or what?
No,
and
no,
then what?
these
And then
are
how
not-
much do regular spraying pesticides cost? Where's the difference?
You're looking at in the thousands of dollars per season.
Okay.
And I don't care which farm you are. If you don't treat, you lose your plants. If you treat naturally, you have certain set of problems, and if you treat chemically, you have certain sets of problems.
Oh, I would
but
agree.
Here's what was the specific point that I was making is that for example, we make our own wetting agents. That's what a soap is. A soap is, we bond other things to soaps, and then we spray them on the plants.
Okay. Yep.
Very natural. We make the equivalent of a Dr. Bronner's. I don't want to be competitive with a name brand.
Yeah. But you make that you're not selling that. That is just to treat your plants in the way that you want to. You have to make that to apply the stuff. Okay.
Correct. And here's the thing. I'm not selling anything today.
Yeah.
Except any ideas that I have are free. They're for everybody. They're for my competition. I'm an ideologue. So I support these techniques for others. So anybody wants to learn how to cut costs, once again, we'll share that value because you don't have to use all those chemicals that we end up ingesting. First of all, they don't work, most of them.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's
for mites.
Yeah, for mites. That's the one thing that I love having you on this show is the integrity and the honesty and willing to say it like it is, but also going out of your way and saying, hey, this is how I believe you should do it. You can do it any way you want, which is, obviously fine. But this is my recommendation. I am going to pull some questions and comments from the viewers because they are definitely chiming in. Guys, you are watching us live on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and Periscope. We love having you guys follow us here. I'm getting to as many of your questions as me and Robin from Wolf Marijuana are definitely getting into it today. The top question that I think is relevant that we need to answer is when you are speaking about some of the numbers we spoke about before, the marijuana industry, the relevance, are you speaking just in the industry in general, including medical, including people that are growing in the black market, or are you speaking just about the legalized marijuana industry that's in fewer states? Because California doesn't even have recreational marijuana growing yet. So when you are talking about that, can you give some context to our viewers? Are you talking about just any marijuana plant grown by anybody, or are you talking specifically about the recreational market?
Actually, not the recreational market, because it doesn't exist in Cali.
Exactly.
But the studies, there were 3 or 4 studies that came through. They ranged from 3 to 14%. 11% was one study that seemed very credible. That's the total power used, and it's primarily for indoor.
Gotcha.
Which has a much higher footprint than outdoor.
Yeah, much higher footprint. So, I mean, the reason, so I'm going to play a little devil's advocate, and I want to go down through the numbers and that kind of stuff. So here's an example. I got into this industry, and I stayed in this industry primarily through cancer. Okay, my family has a lot of cancer. All my grandparents are dead from cancer. My father's gotten cancer. And so when I saw what this plant did for cancer patients, I think you get a different perspective, and it's one of the reasons I'm still here. And so if I'm gonna throw this out to you, and I want to know your honest answer. Let's assume, I don't know exactly what the numbers is, but let's say there was 1 million people worldwide right now that had cancer in their body, has cancer. I'm sure that's low numbers, so we're playing with a low number. How much marijuana would we need to produce to just help those 1 million people? If they were all on the same page saying, we want to consume, we need help, we need this for medical purposes, would you still say what you're saying now about, hey, we're doing it wrong? Because you're literally playing the game of, well, that person has to die because we can't produce enough. And I mean, to grow the amount of marijuana, especially up in Washington, you almost have to grow to have a year-round crop. You almost have to do it in some kind of indoor environment. So what do you kind of say to that of meeting the demand for just the medical side of things, and given this footprint and those issues? What do you think there's pros and cons to everything. Is it more important to get quality marijuana to medical suffering patients, or do you think that we can easily meet that need doing it a different way?
Well, I don't think it should be all or nothing.
Yeah, I agree.
And I do, I'm going to say this with some hesitancy, I do like the idea of a small tax on indoor. It would be it would be a huge promotion for outdoor, which would lower the footprint. So there are ways to achieve somewhat of a balance.
There's literally taxes on the electric bill. I mean, so it's like they're already paying a tax. But anyways, continuing on.
I still feel that the ecological aspect of growing indoor should be addressed. It's at this stage where we're at in the world. I think it's big enough an issue.
I mean, do you see? I mean, let's play this out. Let's go 50 years from today. We've had umpteen however many more presidents. The U.S. will supposedly have, another 200 to 300 million people in it. China will be probably close to 2 billion. We will assume we have international trade of cannabis, especially coming from the Philippines is fully legalized. Canada will definitely be fully legalized. I mean, they literally announced that July 1st, 2018, they're fully decriminalized. There will be international shipping even if the U.S. decides not to participate. Therefore, won't most marijuana come from large third world countries now that have better climates to grow it than we do, besides California? I mean, obviously California's California, but, would it even make sense at that point for most of Washington to grow, given all the pesticide issues, all this kind of stuff, where you are getting things, luscious green? I mean, think about where all like the palm oil and that kind of stuff comes from. I mean, they're literally cutting down entire countries and just putting rows and rows and rows in. Do you not see that coming? And then this whole footprint issue goes away, because that is all 100% outdoor, and they are just, growing the plant elsewhere.
And we saw that in Cali.
Okay.
For years and years, Cali was driven by the indoor market.
Yes.
People said, it'll never be that outdoor stuff.
Yep.
Last 7-8 years, without the outdoor, there'd be no market, basically.
Yeah.
Couldn't even come close to supplying it.
Yeah.
So, I think things happen organically sometimes.
Yeah, they just naturally push.
Mm-hmm. And I think we're going in the right direction. We're going towards freedom. We're going towards smoking, which helps us think outside the box.
Yep.
There's many reasons to smoke. And cancer, I would say, is way, way up the list.
Mm-hmm.
We've had roughly 30 studies, significant studies. Every single one shows anti-carcinogenic. I don't know your specific story, but and I don't want to get into my specific stories on the air, but I can tell you that for pain meds and for cancer, marijuana is coming, and it's coming in a hurry.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
biggest thing that's stopping it is there's no insurance. There's no money.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things that my company's trying to work on. For just my company, we're trying to set up an insurance policy. We don't have it yet.
Okay.
So people can come in. The store owners have told us, we'll work on very low profits if people can demonstrate that they're medically in need.
Yeah.
And they're bigger ticket items. So, but right now, people who have, forget stage 5. Let's go stage 3, stage 2. They have a lot of time. They should be on RSO. Mm-hmm. No, I'm not recommending it for anybody if it sounds like I'm practicing medicine. But right now, it's so expensive. There's no insurance. You're looking at, for real RSO that works, you're up in the $70 plus a gram. It should be basically in the $20 range.
So I want to dive into the RSO, and if anybody's listening, I will recommend RSO. I have no problem doing that, and I'm sure some attorneys can sue me later. But
thank you.
I don't want to tell you, I got a lot of past volunteers and employees who have literally, while working here, have had cancer on the clock. One of our most well-known personalities who literally has cancer right now is fighting with RSO. So I like to speak specifically to what is real and putting a face to the name. And so with that, we have RSO that is in that $20 range, and we have some in the $30 range, and we got some in the $50 range. Obviously, different companies, different quality of products, all that kind of stuff. If you are talking, I want to get your opinion. If you're talking RSO to treat cancer, what is the biggest difference that you see in the product base and the price points? Is it that one isn't doing a full plant extract, one is just trying to isolate the THC, even though they all are darker and say RSO? What is a general consumer, somebody walking to a store, whether it's in Washington, another recreational state, or just a medical state, what should they be looking for, knowing that they're getting something that's going to help them?
Okay, well, like you said, don't look for color. It doesn't fall into the white is beautiful, lighter is better. You can find some good light RSO, but the best RSO that I've ever used was jet black.
Yeah, because it has all that plant still in it. It has
It
the
does.
fats and the lipids.
You want some of those fatty materials. Okay, first of all, there's different opinions on this. So I'm giving you my opinion.
Yeah.
You asked me, so I'll give you my opinion. Rick Simpson emphasized a 99% product for RSO. I think RSO ideally should be in the 65 to 80% range. So
For THC?
for THC,
Okay,
I'm
gotcha,
just
gotcha.
talking THC
Yep.
right now.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I like it. There's so many people that don't take RSO for the very reason of the THC, and that's sad. Basically, I'm exploring one-to-one ratios and other things, higher CBD. There's a lot of testimonial. It's all testimonial, first of all.
Yeah,
right
first,
now.
yeah.
Even if it cured my cancer, and I know it, and everybody else knows it, it's still not a fact.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tommy Chung has been huge on coming out and saying, yeah, like I literally, this is what I did and cured my cancer. But once again, it's not a controlled double-blind study, and that's where the industry still sits. And
So what I've seen is the higher CBD can be very, very valuable. It's also very important how you make it. It's a very soft process. Needs to be done. Like most of the oil that comes into the 502 is so heavily purged. It's all uniform. The reason why that's done is because it's so difficult to get oils into containers.
Oh, totally.
So it's really just about how do you package it quickly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or get a machine to package it quickly.
Yeah,
it has to flow through.
And there's a lot of problems right now. The machines just aren't there. So RSO that is used, that is made with isopropanol, goes to the back of the bus.
Oh, definitely.
You want to use the highest products going in, and if it has organic certification, that's a good thing in this case.
A lot of guys, this was coming more out of Oregon, I think, than Washington, just because of the other industries down there. But a lot of the RSO that was coming in Oregon was all being used by organic grain alcohol. 190.
Very nice.
Yeah, and like,
oh no, you can do 200.
Yeah. I mean, but
Excuse me.
I mean, 200 literally like almost degrades out the first. I mean, it's very difficult to just scientifically get to a 200 proof of anything. And so, but anyways, that is what you're saying is those are the products. If you find products, it has that information on the back. Those would be the ones that you would want to go for. I'm just trying to provide value to viewers who may be watching the show, trying to get more information regarding their specific medical issues. Since we obviously both have a background coming from the medical days and have been in the industry a little bit longer. But anyways, getting kind of off that topic, now getting back to the what we really wanted to dive into was on the industry and where our industry needed to move, your opinions of that. We've talked about that we really need to be a conscientious industry around growing and doing that as a holistic mentality. Am I putting words in your mouth? Is this, I'm just trying to make sure I'm understanding what we were talking about before.
Well, the industry has a huge impact.
Yes.
And a societal impact. And so we need to treat it that way and not have blinders on and strictly look at marijuana as a way to get high, which I think is the cat's meow. I love to get high. Really shit-faced and stoned, I like it. It's not easy being alive sometimes, you know. But the industry is toxic. It's toxic to people's pocketbooks right now. They're smoking toxic chemicals. They're smoking oils that have a lot of bite because of the chemicals used. It may not be giving them cancer or something like that. I don't know what the smoking.
And are you saying when you say like, let's talk about the oils, just since you brought it up and we haven't dove in there, you were saying that it has a lot of bite, aka harsh. Are you saying that there is residue of solvents still in there in the recreational market? Or are you just talking about the black market or the general that people are doing it? Or
I'm just talking about the 502 market.
Okay, that's why I've got the questions coming in, and so I'm doing it. So we're talking about Washington 502 oils that are out there today, you are saying that there are harsh, and there's always going to be, not as good oil. But why are you saying, in your opinion, why is that oil so harsh or bites, as you put it?
Great question. Okay. Has to do with the chemicals.
Okay.
So when you make the oil, it starts with rings of it. You see it in the oil rooms. Anybody that works in an oil kitchen, you know exactly what we're talking about. All you have to do is look at all the stuff you blew last week. You can point out which ones have the chemicals.
Okay.
Isn't that amazing? I mean, you can literally, visually hand pick them out, and they should be going to the back of the line, but they don't. Okay? So here's why. Because the industry is driven on phony test results. Even the amount of residual chemical that's still left in chemical residue, nobody corrects it. Even if they fail a test, all they do is they give them a new piece of oil from another batch. Now, how do I know this? I'm in the industry.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, that's the thing.
We know this stuff.
Okay.
And everybody who's behind the scenes knows this stuff. The testing is so bad, it is absolutely a carnival.
Okay, so let's dive into that.
It's a crime.
Yeah, let's dive into that. I was up, actually had the pleasure of going up to the Lift Expo in Calgary, and it was some of the most interesting thing to have, because they're like, testing's going to come and this is going to be good. And it was like, and I was just talking with people and saying, hey, just because you have testing does not mean anything. It's the appearance of regulation, and
that's what it is.
And so let's dive into that. So when you say, I'm going to just use BHO because that is the most common one that everybody, even if they're in a medical state, recreational state, or a state that completely they have BHO is somewhere in that state. Okay, butane is BHO is butane honey oil or butane hash oil for us old school guys, and so with that, you have butane. Now, back in the day when it was open blasting and there was mystery metals, those were all coming out of the cheap aluminum cans that it was be stored in. Anybody in the recreational market is doing much larger volume, so they are getting it, let's be honest, from Airgas or some of the other big manufacturers of, butane, propane, those guys, right? And you're getting and they'll also call it entane, and so it's basically a 99.5 or 99.7 or maybe 99.1 pure butane, pure entane. Okay, so there's almost basically nothing else in this stuff.
Right.
And then normally those guys run that through a cleaning process because they want to always get the better color. So once again, if there was anything left in that bottle storing it, they clean that as well. And then from there, they run it over their plant matter, goes down, and then they basically heat it to have on one side the THC remain, and on the other side, they recollect their solvent. That is a closed-loop system. I've described the most simplest way of describing a closed-loop system. So you are saying that there is, obviously, when they're just getting most of it back before they do a pour-off or they do however they pull it out, there's still some residue, whether it's 1,000 parts per million, 100 parts per million, whatever it is, at that process, they still have solvent left in it. And then they use the purging ovens that Cross International and some of our friends down in Oregon manufacture, and they then pull it out to then finally pass the test. Our state has very high test results, in my opinion. I believe it's 500 parts per million passes, which, in my opinion, is still crazy, but most of them coming out are much, much lower than that. Are you saying that there is some other solvent that I am not aware of? I want to be on the same page you are when we're talking to the audience about solvents or chemicals used in the extraction process.
Okay, so let's just say you give the material to the oiling company to make for you.
Yep.
It gets tested, comes back. The tests show very little solvent still in.
Okay.
First of all, what that means is you got a test result. It doesn't mean it's accurate.
Mm-hmm.
I want to start with that.
Mm-hmm.
All the accuracy of Washington tests are all at risk. There's so much bogus numbers now, And I can go into that, how that was, who benefits, who loses.
Yeah.
Okay. So the next option would be the oiler comes back and says, well, we failed to test because there's too much solvents left in.
Mm-hmm.
So what they do, most of the unethical companies, and most of them are unethical. I don't know why it had to be that way, but it is. So they go to a product that they've already tested,
Mm-hmm.
pull out
Yeah, one of those.
and send it in. Now, then they take that material and sell it back to the people that they bought it from, okay, so for the oil.
Yeah, I got you.
So now you got your clean tests,
Mm-hmm.
and it's drenched with chemical. So what have we achieved?
So I agree with that. I mean, one, they're always going to be unethical people, but I'm just going to play that out, right?
Sure.
I'm not saying it's not happening, but I'm just going to play that out. So I have some, because there have been recalls, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if I put a product on the shelf that has too much solvent still in it,
Right.
one, obviously we would never want that. But if we are playing this scenario, and I knew it because I tricked it, I handed them a different one from a different slab and then still sold off those other ones. Why, in your opinion, wouldn't that person just purge it longer in their purge oven? I mean, if you've seen the pictures of these rooms, it's like, oh, we have 64 purging ovens. And it's like, and so it's like, just put it back on the shelf and get the rest of it out. It's going to take you just a little while. So, and as you know, I mean, you guys do PHO, and so we haven't gone directly into that, but I'm not going to be rude. It's almost impossible to have a lot of that solvent left in PHO because it's a vapor at negative 55 degrees. And
you still have problems with PHO, and so you want to purge it.
Yeah, you still purge it.
There are really simple techniques, but they take time.
Yeah.
And they take isolating product. And I'm just giving you the experience
that you've had,
that I've had, and others have had.
I'm just wondering, why would a company not view the long-term risks of having a full recall? I mean, it has taken down companies. Let's be honest. Dama got a recall. Noble Farms got recalled. Most of these are pesticide recalls. I can't name anyone other off the top of my head, but there have been other ones. Eddie Pure, a major candy company out of Colorado, had 2 recalls, all based on oil that other companies manufactured for them and getting it from the farm. So, like, they understand how big a deal it is, and it could literally cripple their company over the couple bucks of one slab, and or just not even losing that slab, just putting it back in the oven. And so it's just like, I'm trying to understand the mindset of what you have seen in the industry. I'm not saying it's not going on in the industry. I'm trying to understand people's mindsets on why they would do that than just fixing the problem in a couple minutes.
You've got concentration of power amongst a few.
Okay.
So that's part of the problem. There's very few full processing rooms. Most people couldn't afford to put them together.
Yeah, they're very, very expensive. Yes.
Right, and I think it's the individuals that I've worked with have been some of the shadiest characters that own and run these oil rooms. They're right out of some dark circus.
That's really too bad.
It's absolutely insane, and they're not marijuana people, most of them.
Oh,
and they
okay.
hire the marijuana people, millennials, and then screw them over their wages because they're not interested in skills. They're interested in uniformity. How fast can we do this oil? How can we make it all as quick as possible to go in these containers?
Yep.
I see almost these oil rooms, even when they're big, they're having problems with profitability. That is hard to understand. But this has been my experience. And so they're growing. Not everybody in the marijuana industries had the experience of managing hundreds of thousands of dollars going in different directions all at the same time.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Yeah, so the profitability, a lot of the oil people will tell you, I'm not making any money. Well, actually, they are. They're supporting their farm, propping it up. They're taking it out here. They're taking it out there. It's basically, what I've seen is just some of the surliest characters in this industry right now. They're in the oil rooms.
Oh, that's really too bad. I mean, the oil community used to be such a much smaller community. You know what I mean? I mean, there was like the Secret Cup. The Secret Cup's gotten a lot bigger these days. But I mean, it's definitely different. I know we went down this road just because you and me did not get a chance on the last show to get into details around oil and those issues. We obviously talked a lot about the testing and those kind of things. But I just believe if people take a longer term view of whatever they are doing, that they get much better, even short-term results, because you make better decisions, that aren't going to hurt you. And I do hope that if the oil rooms that you visited, if they are doing those kind of things, I really believe that those policies and what they're doing, that it will eventually hurt them in the long run, and so they should change those practices. But yeah, so getting back to what we were really wanting to dive into here today, where do you see our industry going from a organic perspective? Should the end consumer care, and what should they be looking for?
Well, I think the industry is going to reflect where the people are going. And I think American people are evolving all the time. We're evolving in how we eat, how we think, how we treat our partners, how we view the world in general. So there's going to be a reboot, in my opinion, because the people do have a voice. We talked about this the last time, and I don't want to paraquote what I thought was your point of view about whether the consumer is right if they choose the highest percentage, if we shouldn't.
I'll paraphrase it. I believe the consumer is never wrong. Okay, let me give some basis on that. Because, one, what the consumer chooses in the long run is what wins. Is Betamax better than VHS? Is Blu-ray better than HD DVD? Okay, the consumer in the end is always right. And for us to sit and be like, well, they were wrong, were they? I mean, and so that's the only thing of what I would say. Is the consumer on average uneducated? Absolutely. If I was to go buy a car right now, I don't understand internal combustion engines, okay? But we all drive one every day. And at some point you go out and buy a car and you buy it for oh, wow, this one has a cool a Bluetooth in it and that kind of stuff. And so I would just say that when a consumer is coming in, they've got a lot of stuff on their plate every day. They got kids, they're working, they got financial issues, and they're coming into a rec store or a weed store, and we can't make them weedos. You know what I mean? We can't expect them to be connoisseurs, every single one of them, and to have this massive amount of information. So we can't ever be angry at the consumer. That's my standpoint. I was just talking with a couple other people in the industry, and the big thing that is happening here, it's happening in Oregon, and I think it's always been there, is that consumers want to get a great value. They come in, they want the most for the least amount of money, okay? And there are those people that only want to shop top shelf because they want to be like, oh, it says something about themselves. But the vast majority of people, they want, I drink Budweiser, not because it's the best tasting, but because I have an allergy. Does that make me a bad beer drinker? Maybe. But so that's my thing. It's just the consumer, we can't put it on them that they are doing something wrong, because that is the direction. We can change things over time. So that's when we start talking about Walmart and organics and how it got in the stores. I just don't believe that the consumer itself, that we can be angry at them of why the world isn't the way it is. I believe that through things we do, then you can help them start making the same choices that we believe in, like that we're doing right now. People who are watching right now will be more educated and make a better purchasing decision based off the information we give them. If you and me weren't sitting here today talking, then how can we be angry at the consumer?
Well, yeah, I agree with you on most of what you said.
About 10%.
Yeah, no, about 90%. But
I'm just kidding, Rob.
In terms of anger, I don't see it as an anger issue. It's just we're all evolving. And when a consumer eats food that causes diabetes and causes heart problems. We have study after study after study on certain foods. I just can't. I can't say I trust that consumer.
So it's like, let's use.
But am I angry at him? No.
Yeah.
I want to help that consumer.
Yeah, definitely.
And so, when we look at what's available in terms of oils, for example, the trend, which is towards high potencies, does not mirror the car industry. That would be which car can go the fastest and the most powerful quickly.
Well, I mean, we're just a few years out of that. I mean,
But who really buys a car going, wow, I want to get to that stop sign before that guy? Nobody.
A lot of people.
Okay.
Oh,
but
also in Europe, I mean, Europe has the Autobahn. They sell way better, faster cars than we do, and we've intergenerated. But I mean, most successful electric car company is Tesla, and they haven't produced a car. Technically, the Model 3 is not out yet. They have not produced a car that is not literally 0 to 60 and under. Like, they do not have a slower car than 0 to 60 in 6 seconds. I guarantee it. Like, I think they're literally almost race cars, and I mean, they're gorgeous cars, and they get you excited about driving that car and get you excited about willing to pay $100,000 for a car. I'm not a car guy, so I don't have any interest in buying that. I'm a motorcycle guy, and it's fun to go fast. But so like, and so I do believe I know I want to get back to oil. We're talking about a whole bunch of things, and I appreciate you guys for watching us live, because me and Robin have these great theological discussions. And so, but getting back to on the oil and high potency, do you believe? And I mean, I'm an oil guy. I love oil, and I've made it and love like looking at it on the shelf. I love the different colors. Everybody, I mean, that's the one thing that's great about oil, is that it just has that visual appeal to it. And so when you talk about oil and going to higher potency, don't you believe that the consumer in some point, back in the day, dabbed some stuff that was 40, 50%, and they tried other stuff and got higher? And so like, it's almost like, I'm not saying the test results now are real. I'm just saying that the test results at some point, they just naturally could smoke and be like, back it was keef, then it was bubble hash, then it was BHO, and just magically through the refining process, it was stronger. I mean, that's why we have concentrates.
Stronger can be good.
Yeah.
I'm not in denial of that.
Yeah. So that's what I guess. I got to around. That was a very long question, Robin. I apologize. So explain to me, what were you trying to communicate when you were talking about that the market for oil is going for high potency?
Well, it's the machismo aspect to cannabis.
Okay.
Bigger, better, stronger. I don't buy into that. There is a place for bigger, better. Forget the word better. That's subjective.
Yeah,
stronger.
There you
go. There is a place. But let's look at that for a second.
Mm-hmm.
So I do some oils. They come in the 70% arena.
Yeah, nothing shabby.
Okay, nothing shabby. But they're completely different products. So when you compare my product to a traditional purged out oil, over purging.
You're talking about are you talking purging or winterizing?
I'm talking purging.
Okay.
So when you compare just those two, you're talking totally different products, for starters.
Mm-hmm.
Not just how does it taste, whether you cough, how the high is, does it hit you with a bang, does it hit you with thoughts first, where does it go, and how long is the high?
Mm-hmm.
So to me, the strong denuded over-purged pot, which is the norm in the industry. It's so boring. Just compare it apples to apples, not in itself. If you compare it to itself, then you're going to compare it. You're going to go, wow, boom. Oh, that was pretty strong. No, smoke it and then smoke this supernatural stuff.
Gotcha.
One gives you a boom. The other one gives you a boom, but then it's got this horizontal high that can last anywhere from 45 minutes to 2 hours. I don't want to smoke marijuana and then have to re-smoke 10 minutes later. When all those lipids and stuff are purged out, because that's what we're doing, we are stripping, we call it distillation.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, we're getting back to trying to make America white again. You know, what the hell? Black is beautiful. Brown is beautiful. Cream color is beautiful.
Yeah, waxy's beautiful.
All
I
right.
got you. Okay, so I will say I'm on board with you about the distillants. You know, back several years ago when it first hit the scene, people were trying to even figure out what it was, and they wouldn't say how it was made, and it was just a very like, ooh, it's the new thing, and they sold it really by saying that it was solvent free. I mean, that's really what got people to be like, oh, I know this is cleaner and safer, and I want to smoke it. Oh, and it's 90+%, and so that was the big selling point. But
That's how they sold it.
That's how they sold it, and so. Nowadays, that are understanding more about it, and that basically you make it off of like the junk of the junk, because you can turn anything into the distillant. People are becoming more educated about it. The price of it is plummeted. I was actually just talking to guys in Toronto at their expo over this last weekend, and up there, it's still selling for like $70, $80, $90, $100 retail, wholesales at what it is. Drastically more than ours. Like their wholesale is more than our retail, including the taxes we pay. And so and I was trying to explain, I'm like, yeah, the popularity of this is going to go way up here. You guys just are a little behind. That's no big deal. But just wait, that's gonna change. So with that, I want to get back more to like the PHO and those kind of things. With PHO, it's such a great example. And for those viewers who don't know what we're saying when we say PHO compared to BHO, it's propane, not butane. It's a hydrocarbon that is lighter than air, not heavier than air. And so with that, you don't get as many fats and lipids. And so normally you do have a lighter color. When you're processing yours, would you agree that you could literally change the color of your oil and how it comes out just based on how long you either soaked it or on how many rinses you did of it? That would drastically change the color of the concentrates that you would send out the door.
Well, what you said is true, and the second rinse is one of the key problems. The first rinse, you're getting what some feel is the essence of the plant, but the second rinse can be even more magical than the first rinse in terms of what's in it.
Yeah.
So a lot of the times the second rinse just disappears.
Meaning it never gets to the shelves because people don't do it. They don't want it because it affects the color so much.
It gets into a shelf, but it disappears. So the oil is made. Here's your share. We blew it. Now we have this stuff here. It's mush.
Yep. And then they turn into distillant. Okay. Gotcha.
So I lost my track again.
I want the viewers to understand, because I also want to understand that if they see your guys' products, which I am involved and understand your guys' products because they're on our shelves and we've carried them for quite a while now, is that the color of Wolf marijuana concentrates, that color is actually on purpose because you believe people get a better high, a longer high, or more, as you said it, horizontal high based off of your concentrates.
Well, there's a couple things. First of all, the product that you start with dictates what you get.
Yes.
Not just the product, but what state it is, if it's in whole flowers, if it's ground, like trim.
Yep.
You get completely different product. For some reason, I'm not getting the question.
Oh, I just wanted to understand from what you said, and I'm going to backtrack it, and this does unfortunately have to be the final question, guys. I'm going to say, before we get to this question, thank you for watching us here on Dank Networks. This is the Industry Show. I've had the absolute pleasure of speaking with Robin from Wolf Marijuana here on the Industry Show, presented by Dank's Wonder Emporium. So, Robin, the question that we were discussing is the color that you guys have in your concentrates. And why you have that color is you actually are doing that by choice. Most people are just running towards trying to have it be a lighter color, and they didn't quite get there. But you, as you just said, you are doing that color on purpose because you believe you're giving the consumer a better product that gives a better high, correct?
Right. So if you look at a product line and you see that all the product is the same color, now that product is not all the same flour. How did it get to that color all the same? It's through the over purging and the distillation processes that are so heat. It's all heat. It's the McDonald's conditioning the food down so it's easier to digest and eat.
Yeah.
And I don't do that, so sometimes I'll get dark, sometimes I'll get light. I really don't have a lot of control. Now, I can do things to control it. In some cases, if it's really soft, like just putting ice, dry ice in the last section, we can do that. But in general, I would say my oils are darker, not because they're older product or something like that.
Yeah.
It's just like we talked about, RSO generally comes darker.
Yep.
So when you see really light RSO, that actually could be more problematic than looking at very dark oil.
Yeah.
So we try to describe our oils based on what they are. Some are jams. That's based on what we're using propane with some skill set, which is important because propane is a little harder to work with than butane.
Yeah.
Basically, our product is driven by its footprint, its chemical footprint. So if it's 7% terpenes, we didn't add any terpenes.
Yeah, exactly.
And incidentally, terpenes when added are not the same as terpenes when they come from the plant.
I completely agree with you, and that's another. We could spend an entire episode easily talking about terpenes and that entire situation, but we'll have to save that for another installment. But Robin, once again, thank you for coming on the Industry Show. You're always an absolute pleasure to talk to you. Guys, you've been watching the Industry Show presented by Dank's Wonder Emporium on Dank Network. You've been watching live on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Periscope. Guys, I appreciate you watching us. I've been your host, Random Vaughn, and as always, live higher.